China put an enormous focus on manufacturing in what we would call, you and I would call, vocational kind of skills. The U.S. over time began to stop having as many vocational kind of skills. I mean, you could take every tool and die maker in the United States and probably put them in the room that we're currently sitting in. In China, you would have to have multiple football fields.
All right, there, Apple CEO Tim Cook speaking with Charlie Rose on 60 Minutes. Cook bristled when asked about keeping tens of billions of dollars in offshore accounts away from the U.S. corporate tax structure. He also right there talked about the real reason why your iPhone and maybe your computer is made in China. With us now for more on this is Peter Morici, professor at the Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland. Peter, great to have you with us.
Well, you can get away with comments like that when you're a CEO and it's a one-on-one interview with 60 Minutes. Sit him down with me and he's going to have a lot of trouble justifying that statement. There is a shortage of tool and die makers, but in the room we're sitting in, come on, how does the Ford Motor Company get its tool and dies made? Or General Motors?
Right, isn't there plenty of data out there still also that shows that the American worker is still the most productive by far in the world?
Well, yes. The real problem here is that because Tim Cook, who was COO and made it his business to move his Apple supply chain during his tenure from the United States to China to take advantage of subsidies, an undervalued currency, and at the time very cheap labor, the Chinese then responded to the demand. They developed the skills. If you brought the stuff back here, do you think we wouldn't develop the skills? Why is it that Ford can find them and Cook can't? The reason is Cook is an elitist SOB. And he's basically blowing off the question. It's absolute sophistry what he just dealt out.
Yeah, you kind of got that elitist feel when he was talking about the new Apple headquarters in that interview.
The whole Silicon Valley is there. They're the sort of people I put up with from Harvard who seem to think that I can barely read because I'm at Maryland.
Yeah,
but yet it was
there's far too much of that. There's far too much of that. I also want to talk to you about this pharmaceutical guy, Martin Shkreli. He's been arrested now, but he tweeted this out earlier, quote, "I am confident I will prevail. The allegations against me are baseless and without merit." Now, Peter, I'm no expert on this, but I've done a lot of coverage of Ponzi schemes, but this seems pretty cut and dried, a Ponzi scheme, right?
Well, I don't know. We'll find out. It seems that way. We'll find out. The important thing here is to remember the tale of the African village and the 11 huts. There was a little village in Africa that had 11 families, and twice a year they would have a festival. And they had no police department. And the women at the end of the festival would go out and dance. And they would always seem to knock over one hut. And it was the one hut of the guy who'd been antisocial. With the way he played games on drug prices, are you any surprised that they're trying to get him on something else?
Oh, no, of course not. You kind of invited this type of scrutiny.
And that's exactly what's going on here. It's like John D. Rockefeller. They took his toys away. The only thing I wish is the same investigators that are on this guy's back would go visit Mr. Cook.
Yeah, well, there might be... Well, let's see if he keeps talking like that. Maybe that'll happen. One more topic we want to talk about with you. A recent commentary in Forbes, on Forbes.com at least, says that Donald Trump, were he to get elected in 2016, he would roil the market to cause some spook out there among investors. What do you think about that?
I think that's right, but so did Bill Clinton. The real question then would be how he governed and if he calmed down, which I think is likely. You got to remember, he's no fool. He only is sounding like one on the campaign trail. He managed to run all these businesses and be very successful. So I suspect in the White House, we would get a very different Donald Trump than we're hearing right now. In fact, once he gets past the primaries, we're going to hear a different Donald Trump, or he's not going to get elected.
I think, yeah, that's pretty much the case. Every time we have a primary campaign, you kind of meet the second candidate once they get to the general election. Now, that apparently came from a guy named Nigel Green, who's the CEO of the DeVere Group. Are you familiar with this guy, Green?
No, I'm not. Tell me about it.
Well, he wrote a post saying that Donald Trump would spook the markets based mostly...
Oh, I see. That's what you said. I thought you said that Steve Forbes said that. Excuse me.
No, it was on Forbes.
It was directly, but I think it's quite accurate.
Yeah, there was, and based on what he said about Muslims, his prior comments about Muslims. Now, do you see any correlation directly there? Can Trump really be blamed for what he said in terms of someone predicting an economic collapse?
Oh, I think that people in the market take these campaigns with a grain of salt. I think there's real concern about Trump's competence to govern, his ability to govern, because he doesn't know Washington the way Barack Obama didn't.
Right.
whereas Bill Clinton had been a governor and been very successful at it. My feeling is that once they get to know Trump, it will turn around. But Bill Clinton did spook the markets because he came in and everybody was afraid he was going to tax them broke. In the end, he did tax them a lot, but the economy grew and prospered. We had the new economy in those days, and so the market responded. A lot depends on how he delivers.
This is true. Sometimes the economic the factors of the economy can do more than the man himself in the Oval Office, as much as it might be hard for some folks to believe. They're not omnipotent. Peter Morici, thanks so much for being with us. Great to see you as always.
Take care.
Yeah, just to be clear, that was Nigel Green, the CEO of the DeVere Group, who first floated that idea. Forbes.com picked up on that in a blog post. Much more ahead. We're going to stick around here. Got more on Hardline coming up right after this.